Karen Whitman had always considered herself the unofficial guardian of Willow Creek Estates. With her perfectly manicured lawn and pristine flower beds, she wasn't just a homeowner, she was the neighborhood's watchful eye. Some called her Karen, with a mix of affection and exasperation. Others simply saw her as a constant source of tension. But to Karen, vigilance was a duty. That night, as the clock edged toward 11 p.m., Karen sat by the window of her cozy living room, a mug of chamomile tea cooling in her hand. Outside, the moon cast pale silver light over the quiet cul-de-sac, where every house was locked up tight, and the only sound was the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. But then, a flicker in the corner of her eye. A shadow. Near the Thompson house. The one 2 doors down. Karen's breath caught. She squinted, trying to make out details. There it was again, a dark figure slipping behind the tall hedges bordering the property. Her heart hammered. She wasn't imagining things. Someone was out there. With trembling fingers, Karen grabbed her phone and dialed 911. The dispatcher's calm voice contrasted sharply with Karen's rising panic. "1, what's your emergency?" "There's someone suspicious near my neighbor's house," Karen whispered. "I think they're casing the place. They're hiding in the bushes. I can see shadows moving." The dispatcher asked a few routine questions, then cautioned Karen, gently. "Ma'am, sometimes shadows and night animals can look like people. Are you sure?" Karen's grip tightened. "I'm sure. I've lived here for 15 years. I know what's normal. This isn't." "All right, ma'am. Officers will be dispatched shortly." Karen hung up and moved to the window again, peering into the darkness. She caught a glimpse of a quick movement, too quick to be a stray cat. Her instincts screamed at her to stay alert, to protect the community she loved. Minutes later, blue and red lights flashed outside. 2 police cruisers pulled up in front of the Thompson house. Officers stepped out cautiously, flashlights piercing the shadows. Karen opened the front door and stepped outside, heart pounding with a mix of fear and vindication. The officers went door to door, knocking and checking windows. The Thompson family, a quiet single father named Tom and his young son, appeared, confused but cooperative. After thorough checks, the officers radioed back. No sign of forced entry, no suspicious persons found. The street was calm again, as if nothing had happened. One of the officers approached Karen. "We didn't find anything, ma'am. Sometimes late-night noises can sound scary, but it looks clear." Karen forced a smile. "I'm just looking out for the neighborhood. Better safe than sorry." As the police left, neighbors peeked from behind curtains, exchanging glances and whispers. Karen felt a prick of unease. Was she the neighborhood hero or the troublemaker? Later that night, as she lay in bed, Karen's mind raced. Something wasn't right. The shadow had been real. And if it wasn't a thief or a prowler, then what? She didn't know it yet, but this small call to 911 was about to unravel secrets deeper and darker than she could have ever imagined. Secrets that would pull her into a world far beyond a quiet suburban street. The morning sun filtered weakly through the blinds of the Willow Creek Estates Community Clubhouse, where a handful of residents gathered for the weekly HOA meeting. The air buzzed with quiet murmurs, and one name kept coming up: Karen Whitman. Calling 911 over shadows again, Mrs. Daniels whispered to her friend, shaking her head. "She's making a mountain out of a molehill." Across the room, Karen sat upright, her eyes scanning the crowd. She knew the neighborhood had grown weary of her overreactions, but this time felt different. Something deep inside told her that the shadow she saw was no ordinary trespasser. Meanwhile, 2 blocks away, inside a sleek, unmarked van parked discreetly behind a cluster of trees, a group of men monitored multiple screens. Each screen displayed feeds from hidden cameras planted around the Thompson house. The glow of the monitors reflected off their faces, serious and focused. Agent Miller, a veteran of the DEA's Narcotics Division, rubbed his tired eyes. "We've had eyes on this location for months. The Thompson residence is the hub of a major drug trafficking ring. We're close to making our move." His partner, Agent Torres, nodded grimly. "But this neighborhood is tight-knit. Any disturbance could blow our cover." Back at the clubhouse, Karen's mind raced. She couldn't shake the feeling that the shadow she'd seen was linked to something far more sinister than petty crime. When the HOA president, Mr. Caldwell, opened the floor for discussion, Karen took a deep breath and spoke up. "I know some of you think I overreact, but I've lived here for years. That night I saw something. Someone sneaking around the Thompsons' house. I believe there's more going on than we realize." A ripple of disapproval passed through the room, but Karen pressed on. "I'm asking all of us to stay vigilant. If something's happening in our neighborhood, we need to know." Meanwhile, the Thompsons were trying to keep a low profile. Tom Thompson, the single father, had been the subject of local gossip for weeks, mostly whispered behind closed doors. His odd hours and discreet visitors made him an easy target for suspicion, but no one had proof. Until now. That afternoon, Karen found herself unable to resist the urge to drive past the Thompson house again. As she slowed her car down the street, she caught sight of a figure slipping through the backyard gate. The figure was too quick for her to identify, disappearing behind the hedges. Her heart rate spiked. Was this the same shadow? Was she finally seeing the truth? Unbeknownst to Karen, her routine drive had not gone unnoticed. From the bushes, an unmarked car's window slid down quietly. A man in a dark suit watched her every move, his expression unreadable. Back in the DEA van, Agent Miller tapped his fingers on the console. "She's becoming a problem. If she pokes around too much, she could compromise the entire investigation." Agent Torres sighed. "We can't confront her directly, too risky. We'll have to keep an eye on her, and maybe try to steer her away." Karen's neighbors, meanwhile, were divided. Some admired her vigilance. Others feared she was stirring up trouble that could bring unwanted attention. Rumors began to circulate about the drug house, and soon the peaceful cul-de-sac felt like a powder keg, ready to explode. That night, Karen sat alone in her kitchen, staring at the small collection of photos she'd taken, blurry images of late-night visitors, strange packages, and fleeting shadows. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging, or you'll regret it." Chills ran down her spine. Was this a prank, a warning, or something far worse? Karen's world had just tilted off its axis. The neighborhood, she thought. She knew hid secrets darker than she could have ever imagined, and now she was right in the middle of it. Karen Whitman's life had quietly spiraled into something unrecognizable. The text message, "Stop digging or you'll regret it," haunted her like a ghost. Yet instead of retreating, it ignited a fierce determination in her. She wasn't about to let threats scare her off from protecting her neighborhood. Every day, Karen found new reasons to drive past the Thompson house, armed with her camera and a notebook filled with detailed observations. Late-night visitors, unmarked packages, left by the gate, strange car engines humming briefly and disappearing into the darkness. Each small detail was a puzzle piece in a picture she was desperate to see clearly, but her growing obsession was starting to raise eyebrows. At the next HOA meeting, several residents voiced their concerns. "Karen, maybe you should take a break. You're stirring up panic for no reason," one man said, folding his arms. Mrs. Daniels, ever skeptical, added, "You're making us look bad. The police have been out there, and nothing suspicious was found," Karen shot back. "Sometimes, the police don't see everything. I know what I saw." She left the meeting feeling isolated, but she didn't care. She was convinced something bigger was happening, and she wanted to uncover it herself. Meanwhile, hidden in plain sight, The DEA agents watched her through their covert cameras. Agent Miller leaned forward, eyes narrowing. She's becoming a wild card. If she keeps poking around, she could blow months of surveillance. Agent Torres frowned. She doesn't understand the stakes. We've got men deep undercover risking their lives. The agents faced a dilemma. Karen was innocent, just a nosy neighbor. But her interference was a serious threat to the operation. They couldn't confront her directly without blowing their cover, yet they couldn't afford to let her wander freely. Late one evening, Karen crept near the Thompson property again, clutching her camera. She crouched behind a hedge, heart hammering as she snapped pictures of the dimly lit porch. A car quietly pulled up, a sleek black sedan, and a man in a dark coat stepped out, carrying a package. The man glanced around nervously before slipping into the house. Karen's fingers trembled as she captured the moment. She was onto something. The evidence was piling up, but suddenly a sharp noise behind her made her freeze. A twig snapped. "Who's there?" Karen whispered, turning slowly. Out of the shadows stepped a man in a plain jacket, eyes cold and unreadable. "You shouldn't be here." Karen's breath caught. "I'm just a neighbor. I'm worried about this community." The man's voice dropped low. "You're poking where you don't belong. Stop, for your own good." Before Karen could respond, he melted back into the darkness, leaving her shaken but more determined than ever. Back at her kitchen table, Karen spread out the photos, notes, and that threatening text message. Her pulse raced with a mix of fear and adrenaline. The line between caution and obsession blurred. She was in over her head, but she couldn't turn back. Unbeknownst to Karen, her every move was being watched, tracked, and analyzed by the DEA. The agents debated how to handle her. "Maybe we should try to reach out, quietly," Agent Torres suggested. "If she's going to be involved anyway, better to control the narrative." Agent Miller shook his head. "Too risky. If she finds out who we really are, it could compromise the entire operation." As Karen's world tightened like a noose around her, she was about to cross a threshold. The stakes were growing higher, the danger closer, and the shadows in Willow Creek Estates were no longer just shapes in the night. They were something much darker. Karen's nights had grown restless. Sleep evaded her as the shadows lurking outside her window seemed to whisper secrets she wasn't meant to hear. The chilling text message echoed in her mind. "Stop digging or you'll regret it." But despite the warning, she refused to back down. Something inside her demanded the truth. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees and the neighborhood's streetlights flickered on, Karen decided to take one last walk around the block before bed. Her breath puffed out in small clouds in the cool air as she clutched her coat tighter. The night was unusually quiet, too quiet. Halfway down the street near the Thompson house, a figure stepped out from behind a parked SUV. The man was tall, his face shadowed beneath a low cap, and his posture rigid. Karen stopped in her tracks, heart pounding. "Karen Whitman?" His voice was low but steady. She swallowed hard. "Yes." "Who are you?" The man glanced over his shoulder before stepping closer. "I'm someone who wants to warn you. Stay out of this. The things you're chasing? They're dangerous." Karen's pulse quickened. "I'm only trying to protect the neighborhood. People deserve to know what's going on." He shook his head. "This isn't just about neighborhood watch. You've stumbled onto something bigger than you realize. Drug trafficking. Federal agents, lives at risk." Karen's eyes narrowed. "Why are you telling me this? Are you with the police?" The man's gaze flickered. "Let's just say I have my reasons. But listen carefully. If you keep digging, you could get hurt. And not just by those you suspect." A sudden noise made both of them turn. A car rolling, slowly down the street, headlights briefly illuminating the stranger's face. When the car passed, the man was gone. Karen stood frozen, the weight of his warning settling over her. Who was he? A friend? A foe? Or someone caught in this shadowy world like her? The next day, the neighborhood buzzed with rumors. Whispers about the drug house and DEA agents floated through the air, fueled by hushed phone calls and furtive glances. Karen found herself both the subject of admiration and suspicion. Some neighbors thanked her for her vigilance. Others feared she was stirring trouble that could bring danger to their quiet street. Despite the stranger's warning, Karen's determination hardened. She pored over her notes and photos, trying to piece together the puzzle. What was the link between the mysterious visitors, the late-night packages, and the sudden warnings? Late that night, as she sat at her kitchen table, her phone buzzed again. Another text. This time, no threats, just a single sentence. Trust no one. A shiver ran down Karen's spine. Was the stranger right? Had she already fallen too deep? Meanwhile, unseen by Karen, the DEA agents intensified their surveillance. Agent Miller's voice crackled over a secure radio channel. She's pushing boundaries. We need to monitor her closely. Any interference could jeopardize the entire operation. Agent. Torres glanced at the feeds, watching Karen's movements. Maybe we should try to find a way to control her before she causes real damage. Back on the street, Karen's world had shifted. What started as a simple call to 911 had led her into a shadow war she barely understood. With every step, the danger grew. And with every warning ignored, the stakes climbed higher. As Karen locked her door that night, she couldn't shake the feeling she was being watched, not just by neighbors or law enforcement, but by something darker lurking just beyond the glow of the streetlights. Karen's obsession had grown into something she could no longer ignore. The shadows she'd seen, the strange visitors, and the cryptic warnings now fueled a relentless hunger for answers. Late that evening, she decided to take a risk, one that would pull her deeper into the mystery and, unknowingly, place her directly in the crosshairs of a dangerous game. She waited until the neighborhood had fallen silent, the only sounds the distant hum of traffic and the occasional chirp of crickets. Slipping out the back door with her flashlight and camera, Karen approached the Thompson house. The yard was dark, but the moonlight provided just enough illumination to see the outlines of bushes and fences. Her heart pounded as she crouched near the wooden fence, eyes scanning for anything unusual. Then she spotted it, a small piece of paper wedged between the slats, fluttering slightly in the night breeze. She reached out cautiously and pulled it free. The paper was covered in strange symbols, a series of numbers and letters arranged in an odd pattern. At first glance, it looked like nonsense, but Karen's intuition told her it was a code, some sort of message meant to be hidden from prying eyes. Her mind raced. Could this be the link to the drug trafficking she suspected? A secret communication between the traffickers and their contacts? Suddenly, a noise behind her made Karen spin around. Shadows shifted near the edge of the yard. She froze, barely daring to breathe. Then, quietly, a voice whispered, "You shouldn't be here." Karen's blood ran cold. She recognized the voice. It was the same man who had warned her days before. "I'm just trying to protect the neighborhood," she said, voice trembling but defiant. He stepped forward, face partially illuminated by the flashlight's glow. "You're in danger. These people don't want to be found out. Leave it alone." Karen shook her head. "I can't. Not now." Before he could respond, the sound of footsteps approached from the street. Both of them froze as a car's headlights swept across the yard. The man melted back into the darkness, disappearing as quickly as he had appeared. Karen remained crouched, clutching the coded message. She knew it was a breakthrough, but also a warning. She was deeper in than ever before. Thay. Next day, Karen brought the paper to a friend who worked in cybersecurity. Together, they tried to decipher the code. Slowly, a chilling pattern emerged. Addresses, dates, and times. Coordinates for clandestine meetings and package exchanges. Karen's world spun. This wasn't just neighborhood gossip. It was a carefully orchestrated network of illegal activity hidden right under their noses. Meanwhile, the DEA agents watched Karen's every move. Agent Miller's voice was sharp with frustration. "She's crossed a line. If she exposes the code, it could blow the entire operation." Agent Torres nodded. "But if we take action now, it'll raise suspicion. We have to be patient." Karen's newfound knowledge placed her at the center of a dangerous web. Every step she took brought her closer to the truth, and closer to the very people who wanted her silenced. That night, Karen lay awake, staring at the coded paper pinned to her corkboard. The shadows on her walls seemed to shift and pulse, as if alive with secrets. She realized her life would never be the same. Her simple call to 911 had ignited a chain of events that would challenge everything she believed about her quiet neighborhood, and about herself. Karen Whitman's phone buzzed sharply at 2 a.m., jolting her from a restless sleep. The screen flashed a message from an unknown number. "It's happening tonight. Stay inside." Her heart hammered. Was this another warning or a clue? She peered out the window. The neighborhood was cloaked in darkness, the streetlights flickering, weakly like distant sentinels. Somewhere down the block, she heard a low rumble. Engines, voices. Her eyes darted to the coded message taped to her wall. The dates and times they had decoded pointed to tonight's clandestine operation. The drug traffickers were making a move. Karen knew she had to be ready. Suddenly, the peaceful silence shattered. Flashing blue and red lights erupted in front of the Thompson house. Police sirens blared as multiple unmarked vehicles surrounded the block. Officers in tactical gear moved quickly and silently, breaking through gates and storming inside. Karen grabbed her coat and camera, heart pounding. With a mix of fear and adrenaline, she slipped out the front door and onto the street, just in time to see the chaos unfold. Behind the hedges, she spotted Agent Miller, the DEA lead, barking orders. "Sweep the house! Secure the perimeter!" Karen watched as officers hauled out. Several men in handcuffs, their faces masked with shock and fury. Packages of narcotics and cash were seized, evidence that confirmed Karen's suspicions. But amid the commotion, Karen noticed something odd. A figure darting from the backyard toward the woods. She sprinted after him, instincts screaming, "Stop!" She shouted, but the man vanished into the darkness. Breathing hard, Karen returned to the street just as Agent Torres approached her. "You shouldn't be here," he said sternly. Karen's eyes burned with determination. "I'm not leaving until I know the truth. All these months, I was right." Agent Torres studied her for a moment, then nodded reluctantly. "You stirred the hornet's nest, ma'am, but your information helped us crack this case." Suddenly, another officer rushed up, holding a small envelope. "Found this in the Thompson house, looks like a note." Karen took the envelope, hands trembling. Inside was a slip of paper with a name and an address, one that wasn't on any of the DEA's lists. Agent Miller's voice was grim. "This is just the tip of the iceberg." As the street returned to its eerie calm, Karen realized the operation was far from over. The drug ring was bigger and more dangerous than anyone had imagined, and now Karen was part of it, whether she wanted to be or not. That night, as she locked her door and stared at the flashing police lights fading into the distance, Karen understood the truth. Her quiet neighborhood had been a battleground all along, and she was caught in the middle of a war she never saw coming. The morning after the raid, Willow Creek Estates felt like a different place. The familiar calm had been shattered, replaced by whispered conversations and suspicious glances. Karen Whitman's phone didn't stop ringing. Calls from neighbors, reporters, and even local law enforcement. Her name was everywhere. At first, some neighbors thanked her for her persistence. "You were right all along," Mrs. Daniels said quietly, as she passed by Karen's house, but others regarded her with cold suspicion. "She brought the DEA here," muttered Mr. Reynolds. "Now our neighborhood's a headline." Karen tried to focus, but a growing sense of unease gnawed at her. The envelope found in the Thompson house hinted at deeper layers she hadn't uncovered, more players in a dangerous game. Then the threats began. A note slipped under her door read simply, "Stop now, or else." Her mailbox was filled with strange letters written in block print, warning her to keep silent. When she drove to the grocery store, she noticed an unmarked car following her. At home, she heard noises outside, footsteps circling her property. Fear crept in, but Karen refused to be intimidated. If anything, the threats only strengthened her resolve to get to the bottom of the mystery. One evening, as she reviewed her notes and photos, the doorbell rang sharply. She peered through the peephole but saw no one. Outside lay a small package. Inside was a flash drive with a single file titled Truth. With trembling hands, Karen plugged it into her laptop. The screen flickered to life, revealing grainy footage, clandestine meetings, exchanges of money, and faces she recognized, neighbors she had once trusted. Her heart pounded. This was proof of a far-reaching network, hidden beneath the facade of suburban normalcy. But the video ended with a chilling message. "You are being watched. Stop now, or you won't be safe." Karen's phone buzzed again. This time a call from an unknown number. "Ms. Whitman," a distorted voice said, "you don't know what you're dealing with. Walk away, for your own good." She stared at the phone, the weight of danger pressing down. Was she truly ready for what lay ahead? The simple act of calling 911 had unleashed a storm. At the same time, Agent Miller and his team monitored the fallout closely. The raid had disrupted operations, but the investigation was far from over. The new evidence on the flash drive was a gold mine. If Karen could be trusted, Agent Torres cautioned, "We need to protect her. If the traffickers come after her, it could jeopardize everything." Karen's quiet life was over. The neighborhood she once thought was safe was a battleground of secrets, lies, and hidden enemies. Every shadow held a threat. Every stranger could be an ally or an adversary. The question now was, how far was Karen willing to go to expose the truth? And how much would it cost her? Karen Whitman's world had unraveled, and yet somehow her resolve had never been stronger. The threats, the shadows, the unknown enemies, it all pushed her closer to the truth. But as the danger closed in, she realized she wasn't just a bystander anymore. She was a key player in a high-stakes game far beyond what she ever imagined. The DEA. Flash drive, filled with secret footage and coded messages, became her most valuable weapon. But it also made her a target. The unmarked cars, the late-night footsteps, the eerie silence after every phone call, it all made clear that the drug ring's reach extended deep into the community. One evening, a knock at the door startled Karen. She peered through the peephole to find Agent Torres standing there, a serious expression on his face. "We've been monitoring you, Karen. You've done more than just call 911. You've helped crack the case wide open," he said quietly. "But it's not safe for you here anymore." Karen nodded, swallowing her fear. "What's the plan?" "We're going to run a sting. Using the information you've uncovered, we'll bait the traffickers. But you'll need to be careful. And trust us." The next days passed in a blur. Karen worked closely with the DEA, providing details only she could know, the timings, the meeting spots, the faces. The agents prepared a trap, an operation that could finally bring down the entire network. The night of the sting arrived. Karen watched from a safe distance as undercover agents moved into position, blending seamlessly with the quiet streets of Willow Creek Estates. Tension crackled in the air like static. Suddenly, headlights flickered down the street. Cars slowed, Packages changed hands in quick, nervous exchanges, but just as the deal seemed to be closing, a group of men burst from the shadows, armed, furious, desperate. Gunfire erupted. Karen ducked behind a car, heart pounding as chaos exploded around her. She saw Agent Miller shout orders, the DEA team springing into action. After what felt like an eternity, the gunfire ceased. Several traffickers lay in cuffs. Others had fled into the night. The operation was a success, but the victory came with a shocking revelation. The leader of the drug ring was not some outsider. It was someone Karen had passed on the street countless times, a respected HOA member who'd hidden his true identity behind a mask of suburban normalcy. Karen's breath caught. The man who'd threatened her, who'd warned her off, was the very person she'd never suspected. The DEA escorted Karen to safety, promising protection and a fresh start. The neighborhood slowly began to heal, but the scars remained, reminders of the hidden dangers lurking beneath the surface. As she packed to leave Willow Creek Estates, Karen reflected on the journey that had begun with a simple, angry call to 911. She had uncovered lies, faced threats, and challenged a dark underworld, proving that courage and persistence could expose even the deepest secrets. Her final thought was clear. Sometimes the biggest dangers come not from strangers, but from those who hide in plain sight.